Hey everybody, Jessica Morrison, realtor with FC Tucker Company, and we are back in 2024 to kick off the new year with a webinar to talk about how to understand what's going to happen this year in mortgage lending. And I couldn't think of anyone better to introduce you all with than Ross Bromstrom. He is with Howard Hanna Mortgage and is actually in my office. So if I ever have a question or you come into my office and we're talking about getting you pre-approved, Ross is right there. So Ross, thanks for being brave and coming on the show today.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
It's warming up a little bit. The last couple of days is shoot those frigid temperatures. It's nice to break the ice with everything.
Yeah, I mean, we've got rain today, I think rain tomorrow, and then it'll get cold again, but it's definitely nice to have a break in the winter weather
Yeah,
cycle.
I agree.
So how did you get into lending? Like, did you at third grade want to be a loan officer? What's your story?
Well, actually, so Jessica, when I was born out of the womb, I just love numbers, and ever since I actually started in mortgages when I was one. So,
Oh,
no, I'm
wow.
kidding. So I graduated from Marion University in 2009. So here we are, 2024. So I've been in lending for 15 years now, and worked for some local banks here in the Indianapolis area. And then also most recently was with a company based out of Chicago. But as Jessica said, I'm with Howard Hanna Mortgage. Previously, as of a month ago, we were Tucker Mortgage. So Tucker Mortgage and Howard Hanna Mortgage, we had merged mid-December, and it's been a great transition. Howard Hanna Real Estate is the third largest real estate company in the country. So, I always, of course, have pride myself on the communication and interaction that I have with clients, but it's nice to be able to offer various different mortgage products, to them, and also at competitive interest rates too as well.
Yeah, I think if you're not in the real estate community, Howard Hanna's kind of an unknown name. So um, I think if I could summarize, it's like Ross said, the third largest private real estate company in the country. And
Yeah.
the being able to offer with more resources, more lending options gives you more options as a buyer. But I like that we still have local grassroots people, because one of the biggest hesitations as an agent is if I'm working with a nationwide company and I go to refer my client to a bigger institution, are they going to get assigned a representative that's in their local area code, so that if we have questions or if there's something wrong with the file, are we keeping things on track with closing? And if there's any corrections that have to be needed, just making sure that that stays on schedule. And you don't always, with those bigger companies, know who's going to be working on the file unless you are fortunate to have a representative. But
That's a really good point that, um, larger companies or lenders can tend to build a reputation. Some of the larger banks, um, won't mention names, but their processing and their underwriting is done all across the country. And um, as you had said, I'm the loan officer for the FC Tucker Carmel office. So, my goal and our goal with each and every transaction is to create a excellent customer experience and a streamlined process. So, to me, communication is important, and um, anything in regards to the buying process, you know where to find me. So, and that speaks volumes. It's not, you know, Jessica, you on the, real estate side of things, as an agent, I'm sure there's been transactions where you can't get a hold of the loan officer. You're just basically not really in
Oh,
the
no,
know.
That's never happened.
You're not really in the know of what's going on. So, yeah, and it, bleeds into, the customer's experience too. They, are able to contact you or myself and, know what's going on. So, and
Yeah.
our underwriting and processing it's all centralized. Yes, we're a big company, big mortgage company, but it's all in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So, I've and transactions that I've had within the last month, if I'm sending an email, I'm getting a response. It's not like, 24 hours later, or 48 hours later, I'm getting a response. So that's been nice. Because yeah, I mean, I was a little unsure. Here comes, this large company, and FC Tucker has such a, prominent and good standing name here in Indiana. How's this going to go? And I honestly have no, negatives to share, and it's been better. So
Yeah, I mean, I love and Ross did not ask me to say this, by the way, but I think it was within the first week or two that the company merged Tucker Mortgage with Howard Hanna Mortgage. And there was a veteran agent in our office who did a very public facing email to the entire office. And we've got a big office, like there's, I think what, 70, 90 agents in our office. It's big. And
there's like 180.
okay. See, I'm still getting used to how many people are here because, yeah.
Close to, yeah, triple, but yeah.
Yeah, lots of people and all fantastic. But this agent like just went to town on bragging on Ross and was like, hey, like I needed this pre-approval letter and my clients were writing an offer and this other lender was not available or able to meet the client's needs. And, Ross was at dinner, but he took the time to step out and take care of this. And I know there's some reservations with switching mortgage companies here, but it was handled great. And so he just publicly praised Ross, and I was really happy to see that for you. And it's always fun when we as an agent refer our clients to someone and give them an all-star experience. So really happy that got to that praise happened for you because I know you do work really hard.
Well, I appreciate that. And with the real estate agent and the loan officer, we're in a relationship building business. And trust has to take place first and foremost. And even from on the client's, side of things too, as well. And not just communication, I feel like, education, educating them on the process. And I know if I'm going somewhere and I'm asking, I'm at a department store and I'm asking somebody a question and they have no idea, then I don't really have the trust that it could be as far as that this product is good enough for me. But if this person is very knowledgeable and helpful and customer service oriented, then I instantly have that trust. And even to the point where if they're suggesting something, then I'll probably go that route. You know what I mean? Because I trust in their word. And it's
Yeah, I feel like the underlying statement there is you can't make people care. And someone who cares about you is going to take the time to educate and inform you and then let you through the options that they give you make the best decision. And they may even say, hey, for your situation, this is what I would do and this is why. And I think that's a two-way street too, because the client has to be willing to listen, has to be willing to ask those questions. And you get some personality types who are like, no, I only want to consider a VA loan. And it's like,
yeah.
okay, well, did you know that there's a 3% funding fee? And, if you did this over here, maybe it would be a little bit better. So it's just, and I don't mean to be negative on VA loans. It's a great product. And I love that we get to give those to our veterans, but just taking the time to have a conversation. And that's why I do this series is to allow those of you who are not yet ready to talk to a realtor or not yet ready to talk to a loan officer to start to feel more comfortable with these conversations, to maybe learn some of the lingo, to feel like you can get a taste of the different personalities of who I get to work with. But ultimately, when you ever decide to reach out to a realtor, you feel more confident and capable to step into those conversations, because especially from the first time homebuyer perspective, it's intimidating and it feels like
Oh yeah.
a micro magnifying
Never
glass.
gone through the process before. And to your point, Jessica, with just some kind of tidbits, nuts and bolts with on the mortgage side of things. So the first step is to submit an application and just to see, what you qualify for. And what I'm looking at is your income, your credit score, and then your assets. And these three general categories, we need to check all three of those boxes in order to get pre-approved. And with a pre-approval, it's different than a pre-qualification. Basically, a pre-qualification, us as the customer, we're just submitting an application, and the lender is taking our word for it, whatever we put on that application, and then you get a pre-qualification letter. Now, pre-approval is what I've always done and what I really suggest, because the application is for everybody's benefit, your benefit, my benefit, and the customer too as well. And we want to prevent any type of hiccups, through the process. Things do happen, and of course, that too. But if we can do, if the loan officer can do their due diligence and really underwrite and calculate the income and take a look at what money is available for down payment and closing cost, then it all fits in. And you get trust along the way too as well. Hey, Ross is giving me a pre-approval, this thing is going to go through. As opposed to, there are loan officers, and I'm not just saying this, but they'll pass it out like it's a flyer, the pre-approval, and you don't really know. That's what will make or break trust too, with real estate agents and loan officers.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate, because you could have a great person who is a loan officer for a company that just doesn't have a good standard of practice, or you could have a situation where it's a very easy loan and it's fine, and then on the next deal it's more complicated. And so yes, the trust aspect is huge, and being able to, I think sometimes people underestimate the importance of relationships and reputation and being honest. And, sometimes things come up in the transaction. I mean, I had one, I think it was like my second transaction, Ross, in 2014, where, this client insisted on working with their friend who was a loan officer. And we were like, okay, you have the right as a client to work with whomever. We have a list of people who consistently get us to closing without problems, but you can absolutely work with them.
Right.
This poor family didn't know that their child support payments were going to have to be taken into consideration, and we were way down the line. And obviously, like, I checked in consistently, like, hey, do you have everything you need? Is there any outstanding paperwork? And like, there's only so much you can do as an agent. And so, and I think what happened was the loan officer figured out too late, and it was like, oh, I don't know how to tell them. And it's like, you need to tell them as soon as possible. And so all of that to say, the more you can have those hard conversations, and, I think that takes a lot of gumption on your side. I can't imagine what it feels like to have to, review someone's finances and tell them no or not yet. And
it's a lot of sensitive information. And but I 100% agree with you. It's, don't wait to the last minute. Things will come up. but communicating, and at the end of the day, we're also in a problem solving, business too as well. And typically there's always a solution to that problem. And if we just get that communication out there that, hey, this is what's going on, this is what we're going to do, to fix it, that's not as much of a blow as, um, hey, I missed the fact that you have child support that's garnished, from your payroll check each month. And, it's, or you're self-employed, and I don't know how to calculate self-employment income, things like that. And yeah, you need the certain situations go the extra mile. And you know, shoot, this morning I had a client that had something in the past on her credit, and you want to, double check to make sure that your underwriting team, can do that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that extra due diligence is always worthwhile. And I would rather say, hey, if I don't know the answer to something on a property, I'd rather say, I'm like 98% confident that it's this, but I am 2% unsure. So I'm going to go double check and make sure that when I tell you something, I'm right, because it's more important for me to be accurate than to make myself look good or to just make you happy, because you're making big financial decisions.
To me, that it fits in with honesty. And, to me, it's not just with work, it's life, being honest. And none of us know everything. I mean, there's no way. And so I don't know. I feel like exactly what you said. If 100% you don't know the answer to the question, then find out, and then the initial stages with the pre-approval, I feel like it's so important, because you're foreseeing problems that could happen, if the lender doesn't do their due diligence on the front end. So, making sure to do that so you prevent anything, that would possibly take place,
Yeah. And that's really important, because I've been in situations where we were one of 6 offers in the thick of COVID, and I was the buyer representing the buyer, and the listing agent told me, she said it came down to the agent as the differentiating factor. And it was a huge compliment, because she picked our offer.
Yeah.
She told my client at closing.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it was Lynn Wheeler. And if you guys don't know, she's the 2023 IAR president. She's a past MIBOR president. And so the compliment that she gave to me in front of my client at closing is just a real show of professional class. Like, I mean, if you're a young agent and you need a mentor, like Lynn is your gal. And but she just, I've gotten to work with her on a couple of occasions, and it was a really cool thing to hear the feedback on like why our offer was accepted, and not just the agent perspective, but just all of that to say, I think if you're a new agent watching this series, don't take lightly your reputation, because, word does get around. Or if, you're working with a top agent who has the listing, and you bring a buyer, and then that buyer can't follow through on the contract because your lender didn't do their due diligence properly, or there's something going on in the mix that's outside of your,
It's a fire. And,
like you can have a good lender and the buyer's not cooperative too. But all of that to say, like, keeping your ducks in a row and your leash on the transaction is so important, because it could follow you on the next transaction, even if it's not the same client. So Ross, I kind of want to take in the next step. So let's say that our viewers they're on board with getting pre-approved, they're on board with that due diligence. Something that I see that I think kind of serves a need in the market, and I'm curious if you have a plan to serve this, is let's say that somebody approaches you for pre-approval, and either they could get it pre-approved, but it's not great. Like maybe they get their toe up to the line for 140 and there's not much to get for 140, or their credit's not, over the line to be approved at all. do you have a good action plan or referral for a credit repair company, or how do you handhold, so to speak, that client to get to that next position to be able to buy?
Yeah. So to answer your question, we have two. Our credit reports come from a company called Factual Data, and then I also have, through my years of being in lending, a couple referrals of folks that literally just deal with credit repair. But our system, with our credit reporting system, Factual Data, it has scenarios that you can run, based on outstanding credit cards or, anything of that nature, where it can do a simulator of, hey, if you're trying to reach a certain FICO score, this is how to get there. But absolutely, I've the folks that I know that specifically day in and day out do credit repair, it really helps, because going back to the application's extremely important, because I would like to think, but it doesn't always happen, not everybody gets qualified right off the bat. And so, but at least getting yourself, if you're on the client side, on a path to home ownership, that it's worthwhile conversation to have. So there's those two options. And then we have a couple mortgage products. We not to dive into it too much, but on the conventional side of things, typically it's a 5% down payment, but for a first-time home buyer, they can do as little as 3% down. And then we also work with some down payment assistance through the state of Indiana, through Indiana Housing, which provides a grant, to that first-time home buyer. Because going back, we have to check the income, the credit, and the asset side, of things in order to, qualify to buy. And if our down payment's 3% of a $200,000 home, well, that's $6,000, right there. And then we still have closing costs. So, we're looking at roughly, $9,000, $9,000 or $10,000, something like that. And it's nice to have that outlet where, one provides a 3.5% grant, towards closing costs, and then the other one provides a larger amount, 6%, of a grant. But you have to live in the home for a certain amount of time, in order to receive those grants. So
Yeah, I think you all as viewers can expect a deep dive into those programs at some point, because I think that those buzzwords spark a lot of intrigue, but they naturally create some hesitation. And I think, Ross, we should put that on the calendar, just because I think there's a huge market need with coming into the next 6 months of people who want to buy, want to jump on,
right,
interest rates coming down potentially, and being able to get into home ownership after it being unattainable for a while. But yeah, there's definitely some pros and cons with pursuing those programs. And I think that's where, again, the education, the conversation of, understanding the terms. So, but for
in honesty, that that we had talked about, and we, full disclosure, I'll tell you the good, the bad, the ugly,
Yep.
So,
but at the end of the day, if you're somebody who really needs to get into a house, it could be a good fit for you. I mean, there's a reason that those programs exist. So, Ross, now, I know our viewers are anxious to hear your thoughts for 2024. Do you have a market forecast? What are interest rates going to do? Are houses going to come back down to 300,000? What do you?
I think that values of homes will continue to increase, and they're not going to increase as rapidly as they did in 20 and 21. But with interest rates, the interest rates started to spike January of 2022. And I believe so. Interest rates, I believe, will go down this year, and I think definitely quarter 3, possibly quarter 4 is when we're going to sharply see them nosedive.
Now, is that because it's election season?
It could be. The election is going to be a huge driver this year, and absolutely, yeah. And I think the 3%, or even below 3% interest rates, those days have kind of sailed. If we got into the upper 4% range, with our conventional and government, loan products, that's a win. Because it in 2021, with interest rates being so low, why wouldn't us, consumers be out there putting in offers? It wasn't good for the market, putting in offers over asking price, and because you were paying next to no interest. And quite honestly, the past year and a half, we paid for it,
Yep.
so it shook things up in the market, and it was a busy time, and it was a good time, but
Mhm.
I don't think it was the healthiest market.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
Yeah, exactly. Is that a song?
It's a famous novel, and I'm so embarrassed I can't remember who it is. I think it's Oscar Wilde, but
Yeah.
y'all please be nice to me in the comments if you know who it is. Um, now I'm thinking it's Oliver Twist. Anyway, all of that to
I've
say,
heard it before.
yeah,
I just
yeah,
don't know the
it's
name
a
to it.
popular opening. So yeah, I agree with that. I think maybe I can ask you this because there's been naturally a lot of buyer hesitation in the last year. Rates hit 8% at one point and it was just brutal. And, I've even like we bought in 2021 and, we snagged one of the last low interest rates before they went up. God's grace there.
Yeah.
And, even we've done like a quick calculation on like if we bought today, when rates were 8% versus what the interest rate is now or was when we bought, like it's wild just how much that interest like blows up the payment. So I'm saying this with a lot of empathy and that I understand why people can't just go from 4 to 8% and act like nothing's happened. I mean, that's a huge
Right.
jump in your payment. So, but on the flip side, I've also seen, I think, a greater hesitancy to start having these conversations because I think people naturally, they don't want to get in at 6% and then 6 months later it's down to 4 and then they feel like they got duped. So, um,
Right.
how do you encourage buyers to, in a market where things could be shifting more in their favor, to go ahead and buy and potentially risk being in at an interest rate of 6 or 7%, wherever things are at today, and being okay with that versus holding out and hoping that, oh, maybe it'll get to 4.25, maybe it'll get to 5,
Yeah.
why should they consider now versus later?
So with me, it's two plans, and as we've seen historically, home values have continued to increase. So our $200,000 to $250,000 home now in Hamilton County has turned into, what's the average home price? 350,000, maybe close to.
Yeah, it's close to 4 throughout Hamilton County. I mean, it's brutal, but overall for Central Indiana, it's been just under 300,000.
Yeah. So, home ownership is great because it's owning a home. You're getting more return simply just by owning the home and making your mortgage payment than you are, typically than having a CD or, a high yield savings account, anything like that. But with higher interest rates, what I like to have a conversation with the client. What do you want your mortgage payment to look like? And then the rest of it takes care of itself, in regards to the purchase price or how much money we were going to put down on the mortgage to get to where we want to be. And where interest rates are at right now in the 6% range, kind of a general rule of thumb, for every 100,000 that we're spending equates to about $800 in the mortgage payment. So if we're looking at a $400,000 home, we're looking at a mortgage of $3,200. And my wife and I, we built a home at the end of 2021, and luckily it was literally New Year's Eve 2021 when we moved in, and that next month, as I talked about, that's when interest rates started to hike up. And I've done the math, and it's over $1,000 my mortgage payment would from where it's at now. So it is a big jump, but you can always refinance after 6 months. And I strongly do believe that this year interest rates are going to continue to come down, some, but swiftly. Q3, definitely Q4. And if we can get into the low fives, upper fours, we're going to be really busy again. And I've already seen activity going from 8%, which was just 2 months ago. The end of December, rates got into the mid to low sixes, and with January they've kind of stayed where they're at. Interest rates, they've gone up a little bit, but they still have held in the sixes.
Yeah, and out of my own curiosity, because it's been a minute since I looked at this, I pulled up the December data for Hamilton County. You want to take a guess, Ross, what the number is?
Average home price?
Yep.
Is it 4?
Mm-hmm. It's more.
That's, I mean, and it used to be, I mean, it seems like yesterday, 6, 7 years ago, maybe it was 250,
Oh, yeah. So December 2023, $439,995 is the median sale price for Hamilton County. So we can thank all of those luxury listings for really boosting that value. But and I think where my brain went cross with 4 was Boone County's at 375. So I do a lot of business in Boone County.
That's a good area. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I have a good soapbox about that. It's just a lot of smart may be generous, but well, it depends on the project. There's just a lot of development in that direction. And I'm really curious to see how the new construction market over there impacts pre-existing home sale prices, because
Was the construction area, was it like in Whitestown or something? I heard, I went to a MIBOR meeting, honestly, the Boone County MIBOR meeting, I want to say March of last year in 2023, and they were talking all about it, that crazy roundabouts, but traffic is just, log.
So we lived in Walker Farms, which is a big subdivision in Whitestown for a while. And then I can say that I've lived in the village of Zionsville. I've lived in the apartments at Anson. I've lived in Walker Farms, and I've lived up in Lebanon. So I've really hopped around Boone County as a resident. And it's really wild how much it's changed in just such a short amount of time. And there's different nuances even in those pockets that I just mentioned. And the big thing I think that I'm curious about is, we've got D.R. Horton and Lennar who have really just gone to town on overbuilding on spec houses. And this isn't necessarily a criticism, because obviously they've got big pockets, so they're going to make business plans that support that. But I'm surprised that they chose to, more particularly D.R. Horton, chose to go ahead and just develop and provide so many specs to the market, because now typically when you're building, you do things by section, you sell out the section, and then you continue to move on to the next section. And that continues to support your build prices.
Hmm.
So what's happened is there's so many specs available that now the builder's having to do price reductions, and you can't customize a spec once it's built. So there's not as much incentive for the buyer to go in and, I mean, obviously they get a brand new home and lots of amenities, and I'm not trying to be critical of the builder, but just I'm curious to see how this massive influx of new home sales for that area um, with days on market impacts pre-existing sales. And I don't think that this is ultimately a negative. I just don't think that, like, if you're looking at data, it's kind of
Hmm.
like, and this is why I think it's important to work with a realtor who knows what they're talking about, because, for a while last year, we had the change in our MLS software, and a lot
Right.
of listing
With
agents,
LIBOR,
yeah. And
I
so
heard, yeah.
it was
Yeah.
it was a transition. And yeah, so there were a lot of listing agents who were having trouble getting their listings to reflect all of the data, or the buyer's agent wasn't able to see everything. And even in a different market, there were some security hacks where agents got locked out of their
Wow.
MLS in its entirety. And so my point is that you can have these nuances that could be adding to days on market that have nothing to actually do with the speed or interest level of buyers and sellers wanting to do transactions. It could be, there's a software issue and it's slowing down the pace of agents able to do business, or it's a security issue, or in this case with new home construction sales, there's just a massive influx. And so when you go to pull the data for the area, there's kind of this outlier that's skewing the whole result. So I'm just,
It's so important. So,
just,
um,
yeah.
my wife and I, we live in a new construction home. It was built by Lennar. Um, and we're very happy with it. But Lennar and I don't know. I know they're challenged. D.R. Horton for as many years, they were known as the largest home builder in the country. So I don't know if I know Lennar's definitely picking their volume up, but our first home was we lived in Fishers and it was built by David Weekley Homes, and they did a very good job. And we are happy with our Lennar home, but we got to go to a design center, with David Weekley and pick out, the different finishes and such. And with Lennar, they have their arms wrapped around, they know the cost and, the breakdown of everything. And we love our home, but it was, everything's included, and it's, it was all inclusive. But it's so important to have a real estate agent, by your side when you're purchasing new construction. You think that almost everybody's mind goes to, oh, it's brand new. Why would I need anybody to help me, with this? And the city, they do their inspections on the home, but as many new construction homes, that are across central Indiana and surrounding counties, the city is they're going in and they're getting in, they're getting out. They've got a job to do, and having a real estate agent, that's can suggest inspectors. I suggest pre-drywall, even after drywall, because once plumbing, electrical, everything is drywalled, then there's almost no going back,
Yeah, it's that's a conversation for another time, Ross.
Yeah, but you strongly,
Because,
yeah,
yeah, it's definitely buyer beware, and the builder can say all that they want, and obviously we want you to work with a reputable builder who delivers you a quality product that's going to be a great place to live for a long time. But um, people also make mistakes, and we want to make sure that those mistakes are corrected. So when you go to take a bath upstairs, that you're not getting flooded downstairs. So,
yeah.
absolutely, not something to overlook. But Ross, I know you've got another meeting to get to here
Oh
soon.
yeah.
Do you have any closing thoughts or parts of wisdom?
Not a whole lot, just that it's going to be a very exciting spring and summer market, and very happy with where interest rates are headed on homes. Last year was, definitely one of the most difficult years, on the lending side of things. And when we reached 8%, it was tough. So, I think that, things are definitely headed in the right direction. Howard Hanna Mortgage, FC Tucker, both companies combined, we provide great customer service. Lots, Jessica, myself, very knowledgeable real estate agents and lenders to work with. So pick our brain, give us a call and get pre-approved. So.
Sure. Ross, what's the best way if somebody is interested in working with you? How would they go about getting pre-approved?
So the best way, I'm pretty open. You can text me. My cell phone number is 317-509-7772. You could call me, too, as well. Same number, my cell phone number. And then my email address is Ross, R-O-S-S, Bromstrup, B-R-O-M-S-T-R-U-P, no dot or underscore or anything like that in between my first and last name, at Howard Hanna, HOWARD, HANNAH.com.
Yep.
And of
Awesome.
course, with Jessica too, if you're, working with her, she can reach out or
Yeah.
however
So,
works.
yeah, what I'll do, Ross, is just so that you're aware, I'll put your contact information in the description of this video and your website as well. So if people want to take that next step with an application or just learn more about your bio, they can read more there or learn more about Howard Hanna.
Yeah.
But that will all be made available. So I hope you all enjoyed this conversation and getting to know Ross. If you have any questions about the Indianapolis real estate market or are curious on a market analysis for your home, or would like to just explore your options with housing, sometimes I think a lot of these conversations are not the objection to moving because maybe you're bursting at the seams and you really need a basement, but it's figuring out how to take that next step. I work with plenty of people who are 2 years out from moving. So please don't feel like this is by having a conversation that you're obligated to move, that we are here as resources, as your local experts to help you navigate that. So you don't have to be stressed or anxious about trying to take that next step. So thank you all for watching. Thank you, Ross, for your time. And I hope you all have a great day.
See you, Jessica.